Hey everyone, welcome out to episode 150 of a Nerd Day Mark podcast. Before I hit record, I actually forgot what number it was. That's crazy, 150. Damn. But it's October. You know what that means? Every year since when I started the podcast in 2019, I've done horror spooky season themed episodes for the whole month of October. Um, I would love to do this all year round, and I actually tried at one point with another podcast I was going to start, but too much work, honestly. I don't want to stretch myself thin because then if I do too many different projects, the quality of all of them drop. But today's podcast episode, I will be going over, honestly, all the horror movies that came out this year. 2023 was a big year for horror movies, even going all the way back to January. It's crazy how even last year and this year, like the last two and a half years have been just like this resurgence of horror into mainstream. And I've talked about it before on the podcast when, talking about certain movies. I'm like, this is great. I can't believe we're getting like this resurgence, this renaissance of horror being mainstream and back in pop culture. Because let's face it, for a while there, yeah, we'd get like a movie or two around October, around Halloween, and then that'd be it. Um, but ever since we got Scream 5, and then even with Halloween coming back, with that like trilogy of movies, it's been like, damn, we're getting even indie horror movies killing it at the box office. We're getting multiple streaming services putting stuff out like Paramount Plus, Peacock, this and that. Hulu's always done their Huluween stuff and like Into the Dark, but even they're getting bigger movies into that category, into that production side or whatever category they have. And you love to see it, honestly. I'm a big horror fan. I don't hide this. Yes, I love my comics. Yes, I love, tokusatsu and video games and this and that, but like horror movies, that's it. That's my number one go to. You can ask my wife. She's always just like, "Oh, we should watch something cool." And the next thing you know, it's like I'm loading up Shutter or Screambox, or I'm browsing any other streaming platforms for horror movies. And she's like, "Of course you're gonna pick, something creepy." And it's like, "Can't wait to watch romantic comedy." And I'm like, "Sure, I guess if you want, but what I really want to watch is this horror movie." Um, and luckily, with how streaming service has been all year, and even in theaters, like I've been lucky enough to see basically almost all the horror movies that came out this year. Um, there's still some that haven't came out yet, but there's just so many, and I was like, you know what? Rather than go into like a subgenre or anything like that, I was like, I want to just. I think I'm just going to talk about all the movies I saw, and some that I didn't see, and kind of go into why I didn't see them, and just to showcase how 2023 has been such a like great year for horror films, and I'm looking forward to next year. I'm hoping this is an upward swing of just quality horror movies being released, and the best thing about all this is there's something for everyone. So it's like, oh, you want some freaking like something about possessions, you want like a serial killer, you want some creature features, it's there. Aliens, done. Cryptids, done. Good to go. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. So let's, before I get into that, I got to do my normal, you know, early episode housekeeping, so to speak. First off, I didn't get my comics this week. I'm going to go the following week. I was gonna try and go every week. I'm gonna change it up. I'm just gonna go every other week because like this past week, I think there's only 2 issues in my pull list. I was working a lot, and I was like, you know what? I don't have time to pick up my comics. I need to get a new short box also because I filled my other box. So like I have a stack of comics right here. I have another stack over there, and they're like all over the place. And I was like, man, I need to get um, I need to get a short box because my loose floppy situation right now is pretty bad. And anyone who knows me knows I hate leaving my comics laying around, especially after I read them. I want to put them safely into their boxes and organize them. I actually am probably gonna have to start organizing all my boxes because it's been a while since I've done that, and that's gonna be a pain in the ass because there's so many. For those who have seen the photos on social media, the amount of boxes of full comics I have in the apartment is getting kind of ridiculous. It's kind of running out of space, especially since I cut back on my pull list, and then recently, due to a lot of the Dawn of DC stuff coming out being so good, um, as of right now, my pull list has not been this big since probably like a year or so ago, almost 2 years. So I'm kind of like, damn, I should got to get back into organizing better, and managing my space because I've been buying some toys too. It's been bad. It's been really bad. So yeah, that's kind of it with the comics. From movie standpoint, I've been watching horror movies, and some of the ones are on this list. My eyes, dude, I swear. So it's been like 90 something in Southern California the last couple days. My allergies are just so bad. It's horrible. It's horrendous even. So I'm just like my eye keeps itching. I keep sniffling because like I want to sneeze, and even though I took my allergy medicine like I normally do, it's been rough. Video games, not really playing anything honestly. I played the demo for RoboCop Rogue City. I had fun with it. Gameplay's kind of a weird pace to it and kind of slow from a combat standpoint, but you're RoboCop. He's how he walks, methodical and this and that, But I am enjoying it. I'm probably gonna pick it up strictly because the story. I love RoboCop. I'm a huge RoboCop fan, so I'm definitely gonna pick that up. And then that's not really it. Oh, my phone. Yeah, that was loud. That's really it for what I've been playing. I haven't really had time. Like I beat Sea of Stars. I went back in and started playing the Crisis Core Reunion on my Switch for Final Fantasy VII, and that's it. Honestly, like not really a lot. Yes, I'm wearing the Chucky shirt. I'm like checking out. I'm like, all right, it looks good. I'm also worried because I'm using my new camera settings for those of you who are watching the video version of the podcast, and I'm trying to make sure there's no like frame issues because it's running pretty good quality, pretty clean, pretty clean. So yeah, that's really it. Not really much else going on. Like I've been working a lot, normal YouTube stuff, my Toku videos, and I actually had to miss the live stream this past Friday for a Toku Tonic Shift on Zio Agito's channel because I was working so much. By the time I got home, I was like, dude, I'm gonna be late if I even show up at all, man. I apologize. Like, dude, this week, I've been literally passing out like by the time I get home, just because of like the amount of hours I'm working. So like I'm falling asleep 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the afternoon or at night, and then like randomly waking up 10 or 11 a couple hours later, and then being like, damn, still got work in the morning. I got to go back to sleep. And it's like, when I'm awake, let me work on some stuff. I've been working heavily on merchandise stuff. I have 3 or 4 I finally have the second half of my wave 2 of merch finished, so I'm gonna label it like wave 2.5, and I'm so like happy with these designs. Like the evolution of the merch store from the learning experience that I've been going through as well as doing all this merch has been just it's noticeable, and I'm like really like fortunate and happy like that people like it. People have been placing orders. Like I've been able to pay bills like groceries, gas, my internet bill, stuff like that with the sales, also putting it back into the store itself, whether it's upgrading my camera, which is for the content side of things, but the merch is tied to my content, or, commissioning out some detail parts of designs that I can't handle myself because of skill issues, So it's been a wild ride since April. Because now it's October and it's like, damn, 6 months. Yeah, 6 months of doing merch, and it's like, I'm so fortunate and thankful to everyone who's been supporting it. If you haven't, go check it out. It's onlyhenshins.com. If you're watching or listening, the link's obviously in the description. A lot of toku genre mashups with horror, TV shows, regular movies, stuff like that. And it's been a wild ride. And I got some videos coming up about merchandising. Like I did a live stream until my internet was acting up and kind of doing a Q&A and talking about the merch side of things and designing, setting up fourth wall and all that other stuff. So it's been cool. It's been really cool, and like I said, I'm very fortunate, very humble about it. Sometimes it's easy to gas yourself up, feel yourself a little too much. Like damn, my merch is good, but then when you see people buying it, and even then, like people can add like tips on there, like donations when they purchase, and people leaving messages like, "This is exactly what I was looking for. This is something, this is amazing. Like, thank you. This is the type of merch I've wanted to see." And it's like, this is why I do it. Like, this is the merch I want to see. It's crazy. It really is. All right, we wasted enough time though, even though it's not a waste of time. Thanking people who support me is never a waste of time. Like I said it in a YouTube comment the other night. Um, you know, I reply to 90% of the comments. So this is something that's like really like I don't know how to reply to. Like I'll at least like it, but I try and reply to at least 90% of the comments. Unless they're like hate filled comments, then I'm like I delete them. I delete anything that's like homophobic, like bigoted stuff like that. Like there's no room in the content creating sphere that I'm creating around myself. Not a bubble, because I feel like a bubble is like you closing yourself off to things around you. But if you're coming in to read to consume my content, you don't need to worry about. I'm gonna go comment. I'm gonna see what people are saying, and then you see something so hate filled and this and that. Like there's no room here for that. I put the kibosh on that real quick. So there's that. But yeah, 2023 horror movies. Holy shit. My god. Like there's so many, and there's some good ones, some weird ones, some movies that like I don't know. Some of them they're I can be okay with a film that lacks originality, that's almost like a modern twist on a classic to an extent, but it's like I like when we get like new stuff where I'm all watching. I'm like, I've seen this movie before, But we got some good movies where it's like, oh man, all right, like I'm good with this. But then again, when ones hit like that, almost like a retelling of a story or like elements where you can like when you're done with it, like man, this seems like this. Like so, okay. Obviously, I'm going to talk in circles. So let's just say right here. There's a movie that came out called "There's Something Wrong with the Children." A novel idea. A family takes a weekend trip. So mother, father, two kids. They meet up with two of their friends, adult friends, and they're just like a little weekend camping trip, right? And they're hiking through the woods. They find this cool little like cave thing, and it's weird. And obviously, it's called "There's Something Wrong with the Kids" because the kids start acting weird, and this leads to murder. Um, some air of mystery to it. What is wrong with the children? And I will say, by the end of the film, I really enjoyed it for what it was. Because it's a horror mystery. It gave me very strong, almost like a new retelling of kind of like an invasion of the body snatchers, almost um, mixed with like, almost like the faculty, like a parasite type thing, like but with creature. And I really enjoyed the film. Um, I know from a fan feedback or like ratings and all that, it didn't do like a lot of people weren't feeling it. It averaged, because I took my notes and I listed all the movies. It's averaging about like 5 out of 10, 53 on Metascore. But I'm like, I don't look at ratings when I go and check out um, movies. I don't care. I've never I never really cared what other people like would rate or care or like say about films, negative or positive. If it's my friends that are gassing, like hyping something, I'm like, yo, Mark, you go check this movie out. It's good. Trust me. Like, and, I'll check it out. A lot of time when people are negative about something, I don't let that sway if I'm going to watch it or not. And some there's something wrong with the children. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good for what it was. Practical effects were really good. Acting was solid. It is available on Prime Video, so if you have Amazon Prime, you can go watch it on Prime right now. I recommend it. It's really good. There's a few other ones that did come out that had to do with weekends and stuff like that. Things like Fear and Infinity Pool. Did not watch those. They are on my list. Um, Infinity Pool is on Hulu and Fear is on Stars. I have not watched either one. I probably will. Infinity Pool, I plan on watching. That is on my watch list. Um, you know, but that's you know, yeah. Another one. I know a lot of people are iffy on M Night Shyamalan. I'm not. I'm a big fan. Knock at the Cabin was such a such a good acted film. And that's one thing is like when it comes to casting, I don't think anyone can ever say M Night Shyamalan is not good at casting. I mean, look at McAvoy from Split. Say what you will about Glass, but the culmination of Unbreakable and Split into that film. Like we just watched Split again the other day because McAvoy just kills it, and it's one of those things where like the acting is just so good. And Knock at the Cabin is the same. Dave Bautista, okay, I know everyone's like, "Oh, Drax, that's his peak role." It's not. It's not. Okay, he is a good character actor. He has range. Everyone always talks about like wrestlers who transition to acting, and everyone always says like The Rock or John Cena. John Cena, from a comedic standpoint, is just good. He's got the charisma to it, especially when it is more crude humor. The Rock has been very typecasted in recent years. Whereas when you first look at when you first started acting, it was like post obviously the Mummy and Scorpion King stuff. It was like he tried a lot of stuff, Southland Tales, this and that. But Batista has range. He can do the drama. He can do comedy. He can do action, and he was so good in this. And I'm trying. I don't really want to like spoil the ending, but the basically a family's on vacation, and these strangers knock on the door at their cabin and hold them hostage. And they say that the apocalypse is coming, and basically they have to pick someone to sacrifice, but they have to do it willingly, and it will stop the apocalypse. And I was like, damn. And it was really good. It was one of my favorite uh, Shyamalan films. It's definitely a rewatch for me. Even the thing is, like, I'm not Shyamalan. Once you know the twist, sometimes it's tough to kind of like have the same feeling when you rewatch one of his films. And I'm doing a Shyamalan episode, so I'm trying not to go into too deep of that. But like, this is one of the ones. The acting is so good and this and that I will gladly, watch it again, and I probably will. Speaking of watching again, one of the worst reviewed movies of the year that I just love so much. It's a guilty pleasure. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. No, okay. I can be serious. I can basically it's because Winnie the Pooh is like I forget what it's called. It's like open, like there's no one has like the trademark for it. It's like an open license. I forgot what they call that when like public domain. Public domain. It's public domain. So anyone can make a Winnie the Pooh film. The fact that they made a horror film and basically the whole entire uh, premise is Christopher Robin abandons Winnie the Pooh and friends for college, and Pooh and Piglet now are on a bloody rampage as they search for a new source of food because they ran out of food. And I was like, all right. And mind you, at the time of recording this, the sequel was announced and we got to see what Tigger looks like. And I was like, I'm not really feeling it. But the movie itself was just campy, like gratuitous amount of blood and gore unnecessary. It's basically for the gore hounds out there. Like, you'll probably enjoy this. Now, I say gorehounds because there's different groups and like subgroups for horror fans, and gorehounds are the ones that just give us all the blood, give us all the murder, give us the practical effects, just massive amounts. Like if you watch like Evil Dead Rise, like that, the gorehounds would like the latter half of that film, but at the same time, Evil Dead Rise has a mass appeal also. So yeah, just yeah, that's a good one. And speaking of, like, we can get into some more of the more mainstream ones. So obviously, one of the bigger ones this year was Scream Six. Um, it's I was always worried originally when they said, "Oh, we're gonna make a Scream 6," and I was like, "Dude, we can't be in Woodsboro anymore. We can't. Like, we gotta leave it. It's been movie or like 5 movies. Like, Sydney's story, I feel like is over. You know, she survived. She was the final girl. But we have this new era that was ushered in with Scream 5, and new characters with some returning still. So Gil Weathers and stuff like that. Um, and I really liked 6 because now it's in New York. And I was like, okay, how would this work? Because it's funny when you have killers and stuff like this, like in these small towns, rural New Jersey and Woodsboro, Maine, you know, all these other ones. But New York, to have someone like a Ghostface type, that's more like, all right, you gotta be very careful with how this works so it doesn't get too hokey. Um, I Jason Takes Manhattan. Okay, like I just want to say, out of all the Friday the 13th, I want to know who has Jason Takes Manhattan or whatever that one was called as their favorite. I want to know. I want to know who is sitting there like, you know what, Jason in Manhattan's like my favorite Friday the 13th film. I feel like nobody, honestly. I feel like nobody, because we don't really get these type of movies in cities. I mean, I think Leprechaun did it. Uh, Actually, I think that was just Leprechaun in the Hood and Leprechaun in the Hood 2. I like Leprechaun. Then obviously we had Jason. But then when you think of things like Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, they've always been in these small little isolated towns because there's something unsettling about that. The quiet town where everybody, you know, knows everybody, and in some cases they might leave their doors unlocked before the first movie, anyways. And after the first movie, it's like everyone has like good security systems. Um, but this was Scream 6 really did the balance well. I was always curious, like, how can they keep tying things to the previous like iteration, so it's not like a reboot, because there is continuity to it. And Scream 6 really hit good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I think Scream 6 was. I've watched it a few times this year, and it's from a Scream standpoint, it's probably up there. Like I think Scream 1 for sure, that's classic. Um, Scream 4 was I really enjoyed also. I thought that was kind of a good play on the current climate of like teenagers and social media and everyone wanting to be popular online. And Scream 6 kind of was just like one of the ones of like dealing with, okay, your father was a killer and you have to live with that. Like that's something that's always going to be tied to you. How do you not even deal with it with like from your friends and like a public standpoint, but how do you deal with that internally? How do you like, because like how do you deal with that? Like, are you going to turn out like them? So I was like, I really like that element of it. There's a lot of character in Scream 6 as my camera's doing like weird wonky stuff. Do I have it set to like 30 frames? Oh, I have it set to 60 frames. Let's drop that down to 30 frames. Make it record a little smoother. Um, but yeah, Scream 6 definitely one of my favorites of the year. For sure, like hands down. Another weird one. This is a weird one. Also, Scream 6 is available on Paramount Plus. I will tell you where the movies you can watch them because I think that's that helps. So if you hear a movie you like that you haven't seen, I'll tell you where it's at. Next up was called Malum. This one was cool. This one was like a thriller drama. I really like. Um, I kind of like the isolated type movies where it's like, okay, someone working a night shift or this and that, and so there's you know, this rookie police officer, and they're working like the last shift at this like late shift at this decommissioned police station, and they're trying, and their dad was a cop, and there's this cult that was captured and this and that, and they're just trying to like find what's going on between, like, how is this all coming into play together. And she's just I like these type of movies because it's kind of like you hear that noise in the distance or in the dark, but you're supposed to be the only person there. Like that sense, that like eerie. Like you ever get that when you're home? Like sometimes, like my wife's not home, like, traveling or this and that, and I'm like, just working on something, and I'll be at my computer desk, and I don't always have my key lights on, so I'll just have one little light on, and all the lights off everywhere else because I'm trying to save electricity, obviously. And then you just hear a noise, and you're just like, was that the cat? And then I look over, and the cat's just asleep on the floor next to me. It's like, that's not the cat. You hear those noises in the distance, and then it starts playing, like, the dark plays tricks on you. And I like that. But then it wasn't just that, because we're also, a cult is thrown into the mix. And I'm like, so it was, even though it was a horror and like thriller with like that era mystery, there was like the drama elements to it, finding out like, the mysteries, trying to uncover this, what happened, like this like that stuff. Like when you can mash all that into one movie and still have it, and some tropes in there. Obviously, there's always going to be tropes. It's always a good time. And Malum, I do believe, isn't available unless you want to rent it. I rented it on Prime Video. I think at the time I rented it was like $4 or $5, and that was one of the things I was like, yeah, I just definitely want to, get into that. I wanted to watch that, so I was like, I'll just rent it. Why not? It's a couple bucks. Um, if I don't like it, it's still a horror movie. Like I can find something to like about every horror movie, honestly, which is something you'll know as I go through this whole entire list. Even if there's movies I didn't really care for, I have positive things to say about it. Um, One of my favorite genres that I don't talk a lot about because I have to watch those by myself. Because she's not even here. My wife's not here. My wife hates anything that has to do with exorcisms and possessions outside of like the Conjuring films, which makes no sense. But she won't watch The Nun. But like Annabelle and this and that, like she'll watch all those. But like if I want to watch like The Exorcist, the Last Exorcism, Exorcism Emily Rose, stuff like that, not happening. But depending on who's in it, because there's a movie that came out called The Pope's Exorcist, starring Russell Crowe, and thanks to that, I was able to get her to watch that with me, and that was a damn good movie. I'm digging this like latter half of Russell Crowe's career. Like, I've always liked his movies, but like he's just hitting so many different genres, so many different movies, and I'm like, you know what, sir? Like, you're doing good. Like, you know what? I'm gonna do a sidebar. I don't always do it. Like, but let's like take a look at some of his like latter movies he's done. So he's done The Pope's Exorcist. All right, cool. He was Zeus in Thor: Love and Thunder. He did Unhinged with that road rage film. That was really good. If you haven't seen that, that came out like in 2020. Go check that out. That was so good. Um, and then he did Boy Erased, which was a decent movie. I didn't, wasn't the worst. But then, obviously he did Henry Jekyll and the Mummy, which a lot of people hated that movie. I'm saying right now that was a good movie. I wish that Dark Pictures continued, and I do have a video, or well, not a video, a podcast episode I'm doing where I'm fixing the Dark Pictures from Universal, and I'm going to talk about how I could make it work, because we could salvage the Dark Pictures from Universal. We really could. Is that what it's called? No, it's not the Dark Pictures. The Dark Pictures is the video game stuff. It's the Dark Universe. That's the one, the Dark Universe. Dark Pictures is the Dark Pictures anthology, like Man of Medan, Little Hope, House of Ashes. It's stuff like that. Those are great games, by the way. And I'm going to be talking about video games also. I actually am going to have a Dark Pictures anthology episode. I got a lot of episodes I'm doing this year for that. But The Pope's Exorcist was so good. Like, he played the lead exorcist, and he basically goes around and uh is kind of like their go-to, like proving if it is an, needing an exorcist happening, or if it's mental health, someone's faking it, this and that. But on top of all this, he's also seeing that the Vatican's been, you know, trying to keep some things hush hush and secret and this and that. So it's kind of cool that even though it's like a straight up exorcist film, there's also that era of like conspiracy and thriller to it, of him and mystery of him uncovering the secrets of the Vatican. And I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good. And I just hyped up Russell Crowe, obviously, but we can't forget another actor, Nicolas Cage, who's just this man. Oh my god! So Renfield, I'm a huge fan of uh, old OG style vampire films. I mean, like the Twilight stuff and like this that and Blade. Blade was very action heavy and comic book inspired and this and that. But like, I love some old school vampire stuff. And Renfield was so good, especially from the fan that this is literally from the standpoint of Renfield, his henchman, his assistant, and he's trying to get away from Dracula. And there's there's the comedy, the overacting in some of the scenes, and Nicholas Hoult. Like, I mean, he needs to get more credit than he is due for all the different things he's done. He had last year he had The Menu, which I thought was brilliantly acted. Obviously he was Beast in all the prequel trilogy stuff for X Men. Tolkien. This isn't his like first thing in like the horror slash comedy genre, because exactly 10 years ago he did Warm Bodies, which I thought was a really interesting take on zombies. Obviously I like zombies, so but Nicolas Cage as Dracula was just so out there. I like it. I like this whole whatever whatever he Nicolas Cage is doing when it comes to horror movies. So good, especially when they have the comedy elements to it. Like Willy's Wonderland was just that was funny, even though we basically that was supposed to be Five Nights at Freddy's. But he's done a few. He's did a Color Out in Space, which H.P. Lovecraft inspired. So good. Renfield, um, is this a multi-watch for me? Like a rewatch? Maybe. I don't know. Oh, also by the way, I forgot to say the Pope's Exorcist is on Netflix. I didn't when I got it. It was on Netflix. I actually rented it on Prime because I wanted to watch it. It was only like I think $4.99 or $5.99. Renfield really good. It the it's basically a comedy, a horror comedy with a little bit of action in there and some fantasy. It is available on Peacock, so if you have Peacock, you can go watch it right now. I recommend it, but like I said, I don't know if I'm gonna watch it like more than once. If like I don't know. I'm not sure. I have to think about it. I'll have to wait a while too, because some movies it's like, all right, I feel like even if I watched it like months ago, it's one of those things where if I go to watch it right now, I'm like, I feel like I just watched this. Sometimes time and distance makes the heart grow fonder. Next up, one of my easily my top three for the year, Evil Dead Rise. If you know me, you know me. You know Evil Dead, one of my favorite horror franchises. Ash vs. Evil Dead, great series. I wish it continued. Evil Dead 1, or Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, the reboot they did, what, in 20, was it 2011 they did that one? Which I thought was really good. I thought when they used the electric turkey carver to cut their tongue in half, and in the art, like, I thought that was great. So bloody in the film. Um, Evil Dead Rise, I like that it took us out of the cabin in the woods and brought us to an apartment complex. I do, and I also like how it started. Like, this is spoilers, okay? Because I like how where it started is technically the end of the film, so you kind of get this, and then it's like rewind time. The title card scene for the opening, one of the best I've seen in a horror movie. Like, I've retweeted that video clip a few times. That's not. It is so good at the lake, hovering up in the air. The Evil Dead like rise name rises over in the backdrop. It was so damn good. Like, mm, peak. That was. I can only say so. It's the good thing about Evil Dead, especially with Rise and the Set, when you get a good story and good characters, you kind of don't, like I said with gorehounds before. Like, we a gorehound can watch a whole entire film that has no real good plot or good character development, but if there's enough blood and violence in it, it's a great film for a gorehound. This one, it had the balance. There was, you know, that. I'm trying to think how to word it. When you start to care about the characters and you get their personalities and their dynamic with each other, that's when you the gory scenes, they hit harder. But then it doesn't take you out of the film, because sometimes you see like, oh, that was gross, and then you're sitting there thinking about, like, I can't believe they didn't, like, don't, no, you're already on the next part. You're like, oh, the characters are going through this. There was a lot going on, and the fact that this came out in theaters in April, and I saw it, and then I bought it digitally, and now it's actually on, no, it's not HBO Max anymore. I think it's just Max, right? Yeah, it's on Max now, or HBO, and it's worth I cannot recommend this enough. This is easily one of my favorites of the year. Um, that Yeah, you're gonna want to watch this. Um, I don't think I talked about any creatures yet, right? No, I didn't. Okay, so on Prime the other day I was browsing. This is actually pretty recent. On Prime I was watching, and I saw this movie, and it was called The Black Demon, right? And I was like, okay, I'll check this out. Like, why not? It's a shark movie. I like sharks. The Meg 2 did come out, and I was like, cool. I'll. And then I saw it had Josh Lucas in it. Big fan of his. He's been in a lot of good movies and TV shows. Yellowstone, The Forever Purge. What else was he in that I just watched something else he was in? Um, Crap. It was something. It was something that had a thing and stuff in it, and I'm trying to like buy time while I look up and see what it was called. Oh, he's in Poseidon, the one with the boat, the ship. Like, I love that movie. That's one of my guilty pleasure movies. Um, Sorry to clear my throat, so I muted the mic. So the Black Demon, basically, he's an inspector who goes up on an oil rig in Baja, and there's a basically megalodon shark that's hunting everyone down, and like the rig is crumbling. They need to escape. There's also some an air. It's more sci-fi than horror, because like I didn't really get a lot of horror elements to it. I mean, I did, but I didn't have that sense while watching it. It's more on like the thriller sci-fi side of things. Uh, Good ending. Did not think that ending was going to happen the way it did. Uh, I like sharks, so give me a megalodon. Um, I recommend watching it. I mean, it's all right. It's not the greatest. Like, you're not gonna like, if you don't watch it, it's not like the end of the world type thing. Like, oh no, you have to watch it as a peak. It's just a good fun movie if you want to, kill an hour and a half or so of time and watch something. I'd recommend it. Um, that's kind of where I'm at with that film. It was, I was just like, well, I need to talk about creature films. I haven't really mentioned any creature films, so that's why one of the reasons why I was like, yeah, well, we should talk about that. Um, The Boogeyman is a film I need to see. I have not watched it yet. I know it's on Hulu, so I am right now. That's like the asterisk. But I am going to watch The Boogeyman. Um, that's just a sidebar, and also while I'm editing it to remind myself, hey Mark, go watch The Boogeyman on Hulu. Thanks, Mark. And let's see what else. There's a lot of stuff I didn't watch actually. I guess okay. This is tough for me to talk about because this franchise had such hope, and it had Patrick Wilson in it, and I like Patrick Wilson. But Insidious: The Red Door, I'm trying to think of a time in recent years where like I was genuinely excited to see a horror movie, and then I saw it and I was just disappointed. Um, Insidious: The Red Door was that, and like I said, I like Patrick Wilson. And the downside is because it's like I feel like it's too little, too late to do this follow up with his character from Insidious because they focused so much on Lynn Shay and Lynn Shay's character, and I love Lynn Shay, by the way. She's phenomenal. She is like any like anytime she's in horror movies, you know it's gonna be good. Um, and my thing is like I just didn't, it just didn't do it for me. And because they still have their demons, they're trying to fight, and I'm like, no, I don't. And I just didn't. I just couldn't get into it. I just didn't care. I just didn't. And Patrick Wilson even directed this too, and like his directing was fine. I just didn't like the story. Like these movies, like I said, I can find something to enjoy. Jump scares, this and that, they're cool. This movie just didn't do it for me. Another one that didn't do it for me, and I don't feel like we needed like a follow up or like another type was Bird Box Barcelona, and that's on. Oh, by the way, Insidious is nowhere streaming. You can rent it on Prime for like $5.99. Um, Bird Box Barcelona, which is on Netflix. Bird Box was a good film for what it was. I enjoyed it. We were going in that whole like I called like the see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil because we had, um, you know, Bird Box where you can't see anything. Then we had the silence, which you couldn't say anything or the monsters would kill you. I don't think we had anything where you had to be deaf for stuff. But there's a lot of, and we had things like the Quiet Place. We had a lot of those sensory style films where like, okay, you can't see anything or you can't say anything. But Bird Box Barcelona brought in this whole plot to it where people technically could see the creatures, and and they would seem like white, like coming off, like light coming off of people. Like I was like, dude, this is weird. I did not like it like at all, and it's one of the things where I was like, I felt like it was kind of like they were just trying to like a cash grab type thing, and I was like, nope, don't care. Um, it was just now, but um, one movie I rented. I know I bought it. I bought it digitally. Um, that I wanted to see. I didn't get to see it when it was in theaters, and it wasn't even. I feel like it wasn't even in theaters that long. Indie horror film Cobweb. Now, this this movie was so good until like the third act. It started to fall apart a bit, and I had so much hope for it. But I still really enjoy it. It's still something I'd probably watch again. So it involves this 8-year-old boy who basically at night is hearing this knocking sound from inside the walls, and then it's talking to him. And the whole entire time they're building things like these parents are like hiding something. These parents might be evil. They're strict. You know, the son is drawing pictures in school with him laying in bed saying "Help me," and this and that. And it's like, what the hell is going on? And then all of a sudden he's having conversations and with the whatever's in the wall. And this whole entire time you're thinking it's the parents, and then there's a twist. Um, After the twist and towards the end, that's when it started to get a little bit, it kind of fall apart a bit. I think it was still a really good film. I still enjoy it. Like, do I regret buying it on digital? No. I'd probably still get a physical because I do really enjoy support like physical media. So it's definitely something I'll probably still pick up. Um, so yeah, if you haven't already, yeah, I would definitely check it out. I mean, it's worth checking out. If you don't want to rent it or buy it, I assume probably in another month or so it may pop up somewhere for on a streaming service. I'm not 100% sure. I could see it possibly going to like Max or Peacock, honestly, one of those two, or even Netflix. But I don't really know if it'd probably go to Netflix. Um, the Meg 2, The Trench is listed as a horror movie. It's not. Those are action movies. I'm not putting that in this category. It was fun, but after reading the actual book, the first Meg was based off of, and then doing a deep dive into that that series of books. What could have been the Meg could have easily been this generation's Jurassic Park if done properly, but it wasn't. Ooh, so I mentioned vampires. I haven't like we don't get a lot of like good vampire movies. Like Renfield was good, horror, thriller, comedy, but The Last Voyage of the Demeter was really freaking good. Especially how they somehow took one little chapter of the novel of Dracula and were able to flesh this out into a film for almost 2 hours. Kudos. So it's basically the ship going, sailing through the Black Sea to go to England, and guess what was on the ship? Dracula. And visually appealing. Something about anytime there's like a movie where there's like a ship and it's nighttime and there's like that rain and just the atmosphere, the setting, the visuals of it always always impressed me. Um, Sadly, I think this is still in theaters. So if you want it, you gotta rent or buy it for like $20 on Prime. Um, and yeah, so that's the only way you can really watch it. And I would say, it's it's tough for me to say it's worth it because for me, if me and my wife wanted to go see this in theaters, that's what like $12.50 each. That's $25. Popcorn, soda. We're looking at $40-$50, right? So for me, I'm like, well, I'll buy it for 20, or I'll rent it for 20 because that's still cheaper than if we went to the theater to go see it. So in that regards, from calculating the price that standpoint, worth it. So it's up to you if you would. Let's see. So I put a note. I had the Killer Book Club listed. It's on Netflix. It's about a group of friends that love horror, and a clown starts stalking them and killing them, and there's like this whole thriller mystery to finding out who this clown is and what the connection to all of them and the past. Um, I didn't like it. That's all I ever say. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it, but the thing is, with a horror movie, I'll even if I start to not like it, I'll wait and just to see maybe if like they stick the landing. The landing might be like, all right, this wasn't good along the way, but man, that ending got me. Not with this one. Nope, this didn't do it for me. So, can I recommend this one? No, not at all. I can't. I'm sorry. Just it's not no. But there's a creature film I can recommend to you. Slaughterhouse. Yep, that's right. A sloth as a killer creature. I'm just saying. All right, so there's this girl who's a senior in college, and she wants to be the 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 they call them presidents, right? When you're in like a sorority or whatever, the president of that sorority, and you know, she gets a pet sloth and wants it to become their mascot, and be like, hey, look, I got a cute sloth, like now it could be our mascot. Let me be president. I mean, if the internet has shown me anything, it's that a sloth, baby sloth, full size sloth, people will get emotional about them when they come face to face with them at like a petting zoo or anything. They're just like, oh my god, it's a sloth, and they just lose it. They sloths have this. Sloths and otters are just like it. Like one sloth is equivalent to one like basket full of kittens, and an otter is like two baskets of kittens, and a sloth is equivalent to like two husky puppies. Like there's there's like tier levels to animals and their effects on people. Um, this was just ridiculous. Okay, I'm not even gonna lie to you. This was ridiculous. I loved it. I loved it so much. It was so bad. I was like, oh man, this is gonna go on my campy. I will watch this a good amount. not in like a short time frame, but I will definitely be watching this a few more times. I bought it digitally on freaking Prime. Okay, you can rent it for like $5, I think. I was like, no, I'm buy it. Like this is just too ridiculous. I have to check this out. Um, Another one that I watch, and most of these are the ones I watched, and then I'll bring up, and every once in a while I'll mention one that I want to watch. Another one that looks really cool. I'm a fan because okay, so I live in Southern California now. Let me adjust my chair. I live in Southern California now, but I grew up in northern Connecticut near Massachusetts. So I've been to Salem, Massachusetts, so many times. There used to be campgrounds over near there, so we go camp. My friends go camping, party up there, stuff like that. There's a movie that came out called All Fun and Games. I need to check this out still. It's on my watch list. It's actually I added it to my watch list. I'm probably gonna rent it on Prime uh, this upcoming weekend to watch. But it's about a group of Salem teens. They find a cursed knife that basically unleashes a demon that forces them to play these uh, like these basically deadly versions of like childhood games. Um, and I was like, okay, this is like hide and seek, truth or dare, stuff like that. So I was like, this is really cool. And like watching it, the trailer really hooked me in. I remember seeing the trailer earlier in the year, and then I kind of like forgot about it because no one was talking about it. There was no other trailers. Then all of a sudden, I was like, oh, it's out. I didn't even know it was out. And then so I'm gonna probably rent that on Prime over the weekend, just because that is, um, something that I'm really curious. It's something I want to watch. It's definitely up there. It intrigued me enough, and I'm a really big fan of like anything that has to do with Salem and things like that. I'm not into the occult or witchcraft or paganism or anything like that. It's just growing up where you could just drive to Salem and the history of the town and everything else. There's something really like messed up about it, where there was a time frame where if you couldn't explain something that someone was doing, they're a witch. And then you would freaking have these tests, right? These like, oh, if we tie them to this thing of water and then we dunk them down, and when we pull them back up, if they can still breathe, they're a witch. It's like, dude, that's called drowning. Or they're like, you know what? Time to that tree, and let's light it on fire. And if they survive, they're a witch. It's like no one will survive that. No one. Who who made these rules? Who made these little like tests? Those are horrible tests. Like seriously, hold on. All right, you want to like test that like to figure out if someone's a witch, dude? Like make them levitate something. Be like, hey, talk to this cat, or all right, here's the broom. Show me you can't fly. All right, well, actually, that's too bad because then they'd have to put them on a cliff and have them jump off the cliff with the broom. So that test would be bad, actually. So we're not going to do that test. No, that doesn't count. Um, I'm sitting here coming up with like how to test if someone's a witch in my head, and I'm like, all of these do actually involve death. So I don't really feel like, all right, you know what? I'm not validating or condoning what they used to do, but I kind of understand how it's hard to not come up with a test that doesn't involve death as one of the options. Because it's either you die or you're a witch. Man, I just came up with some messed up ones in my head, and I'm not even going to share them because, listen, I love all of you, you viewers, listeners, fans of the podcast. I love your support. Love all of you. Y'all judge the shit out of me if I tell you some of the things that popped in my head. So we're just gonna move on. Just know that I want to check out All Fun and Games, and I do like anything that has to do with Salem, Massachusetts. Um, Another movie that I'm I'm cautiously not optimistic about. That sounds so bad. The Nun 2. Okay, so listen, I love the Conjuring films. The mainline Conjuring films are great. The first Annabelle creation was really good. Um, I'm in the minority where I actually kind of liked the Curse of La Llorona. Um, I didn't really like the first Nun. I feel like the first Nun was alright for what it was, but it's just like I don't. I just have this thing where I don't care to an extent, if that makes sense. Um, like this whole demon nun and bringing back the same sister Irene coming back into it and facing off again with, and I'm just like, I don't. It just doesn't appeal to me. I wish they stopped spreading out. Like it's cool that they're explaining, like especially like Annabelle didn't need that many films. Honestly, The Nun doesn't need that. Give us an origin and that's it. We don't need this whole like paper trail history of this demon and this doll. Um, Curse of La Llorona was good because I feel like when it comes to horror films, especially when it's a big studio behind it and this and that, the Spanish lore, Mexican lore, and like Native American lore mythos, whether like from a Spanish Mexico standpoint, you have La Llorona, Chupacabra, stuff like that. From a Native American standpoint, we do have stuff like Skinwalkers and um, Wendigos and stuff like that, and they're not really um, like Dark Was the Night, which is a Wendigo one. That's like still one of my favorites. Like I can rewatch that constantly. It's such a good film. But stuff like that doesn't really get the mainstream like movie theater release, you know, treatment. Usually they're campier B movies with low quality, low budget, and just not like. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying in a standpoint of like the average person isn't gonna go out of the way to search for these films. They're going to see what's playing in theaters or what's featured on like Netflix and, you know, suggested to them on their streaming services. And so when like things like The Nun and like it's like, okay, just give us one and that's it. We don't need all these other ones. And yeah, it's I don't know. There's The Nun just doesn't appeal to me. It never did. It never will. Um will I check it out? Yeah, when it's on Max. Not gonna rent it. Not gonna spend money on it. When it's on a streaming platform, that's when I'll watch it. Honestly. Um, Next up, one of my favorite movies of the year. One of my favorites. It's on Hulu. You seen me tweet about it. It's called No One Will Save You, and it's an alien film. But the best thing about this, there's no real dialogue at all in this film. It's all body language, facial expressions, the music, the tones, the score, and it's this girl who is exiled to her family's house. She's like a homebody. Something happened in her past. I won't spoil it. And aliens have started to basically get into her home, the town, everything else, and she's battling against them. It's one of the few films where I'm like, I got the full story, the backstory, the emotion, everything with not one full sentence being said. And I was like, bravo. This movie's on Hulu. You need to watch it. This is literally up there in my top three with Evil Dead Rise for the year. It's it's so good. I can't I can't recommend it enough. Um, it's just that good. It's really good. It's good. There's a level of artistic expression in it. It's just I can't like Brian Duffield did such a damn good job with this film, and then even Caitlin Dever was phenomenal in the lead. She's been in a few different films. I'm honestly drawing some blanks right now, but you need to like just check this movie out. It's worth it. Um, yeah, 100%. It's on Hulu. But that's it for like movies I've seen. Now they're like because it's October, beginning of October. There's still a lot of other movies coming out. If I do see them, I will talk about them before any of my horror topics for movies for the rest of the month. But I do want to just talk about some movies that either just came out that I haven't gotten to see, and some ones that are actually coming out. So, Saw X. Um, so I'm not sure how I feel about this because, like, once again, we're getting John Tobin Bell's back, Jigsaw, and it's basically while he was still sick, he goes to Mexico for a risky experimental medical procedure to cure his cancer, and I guess the whole entire thing was a scam. to defraud people and this and that. So he basically goes after all of them. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to watch it. Like, I know my wife likes Saw films, so we're probably going to go see it. But for me, right off the bat, I was like, we already know he dies, so you know. Another one, The Exorcist Believer. I I don't know how I feel about this because it's once again one of those um like real time sequels. Like, so basically, hypothetically takes place in 2023, but they do a callback to the early 70s with returning characters, kind of like what they did with Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. Um, it's getting destroyed in the online. Like, everyone, like, I haven't seen anyone say anything positive about it. Um, I'm not the biggest Exorcist fan. I like the first one, and I like part two or the second one. The third one was all right, and then after that, I kind of just stopped watching anything that was Exorcist related. I did try watching the TV show for a bit, which was decent, but then I kind of just like stopped keeping up with it. So I'm not sure how much I care about this, honestly. One that I'm really excited for, and it's on Shutter, is VHS 85. The VHS found footage horror franchise is so good. I love it, especially because it's like little short stories with an overall story. Um, I have not watched a VHS I did not like, so I'm really curious about 85. That's on Shutter. I think it just got added, so I'm probably gonna watch that tonight. Actually, if I'm being honest, like, well, by the time this goes live, it'd be a couple days have passed. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna be watching this because it just debuted. Same with Pet Cemetery Bloodlines, which I'm not the. I feel like there's too much Pet Cemetery over the years. I'm just throwing it out there. Um, the only thing that's about this that's kind of got me curious is because they got David Duchovny in it, and I'm like, okay, I'm curious about this, and they also got who else is in this? Let's see, um, and Henry Thomas, and I'm a big fan of Henry Thomas. I think especially in Midnight Mass. That's and when he was doing like the Haunted of Blind Manor stuff like that, and the Haunting of Hill House, like in Doctor Sleep. He's done some. So like I like Henry Thomas, so I'm curious to check it out. I'm not like I think outside of the original Pet Cemetery and then the remake they did a couple years ago. I was never like Pet Cemetery Part Two, all the different various Pet Cemetery stuff. I just did not care anymore. Um, so this one I'm curious about. I will check this out for sure, especially because it's gonna be on Paramount Plus. So I already have Paramount Plus, so I don't have to pay money to rent it. So that's that's cool. Um, another one I'm really excited for, which is no shock because I've talked about it multiple times. Five Nights at Freddy's. Like this is one of the ones where it's like, okay, I think it's gonna be in theaters, but I know it's gonna be on Peacock, and it's gonna be like added right on October 27th. My thing is like, man, do I like I it's just I've only played one of the games. I've read like the novelizations ones and the graphic novel ones. I kind of like the idea of Five Nights at Freddy's. I was kind of mad that the games didn't play like how the books works. I feel like that would have been great, but I'm really curious about this. This is definitely on my watch list. Like, so I'm not listing every movie that's coming out. I'm listing the ones that are like appealing to me, so I'm kind of biased. Um, and let's see, is there anything else that's listed for? Oh yeah, Thanksgiving. Dude, like, okay, the fact that like it's basically a horror movie where someone's basically a serial killer terrorizing Plymouth, Massachusetts. I'm just like, all right, but like watching the trailer, it looked crazy, and I was like, you know what, I'm sold. I want to I want to watch this. And then I don't think let's see. Nah, I have another tab open, like all the movies that are coming out. There's one coming out, but it's Norwegian. I don't know when we're gonna get it, but it's called Night Watch. Demons Are Forever. I really like Night Watch and Day Watch. older movie, like not older, but like I was like late teens when they came out. I'm curious to see what is what that's going to turn out, but like, I don't know when we're going to get like English release that's like subtitled or anything like that. Um, I do want to see it though, and um, I'm really confused because I thought the Toxic Avenger was already out because it was listed originally for September. Um, I don't know where to watch it, honestly. I really don't. I'm a huge fan of the Toxic Avenger. I love trauma films. I just don't understand some choices about it. Um, Especially when it comes to Peter Dinklage being Winston. Like I don't know, like I'm trying to like navigate this properly. I don't. Does he stay as a dwarf when he's Toxic Avenger? I don't know. I don't know. Um, but at the same time, Toxic Avenger is campy. It's supposed to be campy. Even if you remake it and you put a budget behind it, it's not supposed to be this clean, high produced, overly, you know, uh, just it's not supposed to have. It's supposed to be campy. It's supposed to be a little cheesy, a little B movie in there. Like I don't go into trauma films, and I have their app, like the Trauma Plus. I call it Trauma Plus. I don't go in to watch a trauma film and expect that I'm going to be watching like Steven Spielberg produced War of the Worlds. You know, you go to watch a trauma film, you know what you're getting in for, and you know what to expect, and you know what you're going there to see. It's going to be campy, cheesy, gratuitous boob scenes, dismembership, old school practical effects, which I love. That's why I love trauma films so much. Um, but that's it. That's basically all the horror movies that I've seen, and all the major ones that have came out in 2023, and the list of ones that like honorable mentions, things that I haven't seen that I plan on watching this month. I will update what I've watched throughout these episodes throughout the month. I'm really excited. I got a guest coming up soon on one of the episodes to talk about 90s stuff that I don't want to give away yet. Um, but that's it for episode 150 of a Nerd Named Mark podcast. Man, I thank you guys for watching. This is a longer video, a longer episode. Um, but like I said, when it comes to horror stuff, I could talk for a while. I can tell you that. Um, Obviously, the podcast is available on all podcast listening platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. One of the other ones shut down. I forgot which one. Good Pods. If you want, go leave a rating over there. Follow me over there. I recommend. I talk about other podcasts that I'm listening to and recommend them. The Amazon podcast. I think that's what it's called. I don't know what it's called. I don't know. Nerd Day Mark podcast on all the podcast listening platforms, especially iHeartRadio. If you listen on Spotify, leave me a review, please, or Apple Podcast. I'm trying to get some reviews up there, push me up the category a bit. I dropped down, taking 2 months off for the podcast, so my rankings kind of dropped. Not that they matter, but it gives more eyes on the show. So if you could take 30 seconds out of your time, hit the 5-star, write a little thing, I'd greatly appreciate that. But if you're watching the video version on YouTube, hey, hi, my face. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below. We got more horror goodness to talk about. Got some comic stuff coming up. We got some video games, some tokusatsu, a little bit of everything. And don't forget the merchandise store. I almost said shore. Onlyhenshins.com. I got some good stuff for horror genre mashups. And I got a new wave, like I said, dropping soon over there. They also have memberships, which is kind of like Patreon. That's where I give you guys some behind the scenes stuff on what I'm working on and this and that. I will never put the content that I put up anyways online behind a paywall. So if there's content on there, it's only going to be there. And that's the only place you can access it. But I thank you guys for watching. I thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 150 of a Nerd Named Mark podcast. I'm Mark. Oh no, that's not even my catchphrase, dude. I've been fucking up my catchphrase like last week too. Man, I'm bad at this. Hold on, let's take a second. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to episode 150 of a Nerd Named Mark podcast. My name is Mark, and I'm a nerd. I'm leaving that in there. I messed that up, but I'm leaving it in there. We're not gonna edit out gold like that where I mess up makes me seem more relatable.